There it is.
All right, so are people satisfied with this discussion? Are we at can we move on? Or, I mean, my feeling is I'm watching what other municipalities in the county do, trying to get us ready for opening in a responsible way. And
yeah, and you've got your ear to the ground, what, much better than I think the other of us about, what other municipalities are doing and how they're doing it. So
yeah, no, I mean, I hear you, Cal. It's nice to be in person. So
yeah, it's, I'd be willing to take on, come up next week with a proposition for some stuff, a Heppefelder and an air exchange, at least something to get us started. I mean, thinking forward, in the next month or two, hopefully we could be back to in-person meetings. But I don't know, these darn viruses, you just don't know.
that's right. We have to watch what's going on. So, but if you want to do that, that I'd welcome that.
I think it would also help. That would also help the court. Just the people that are coming in and out of there. Just make a safer space for them.
I mean, I guess I will just say I would be in favor of at least learning more, or as much as we can, about how common these requests are or comments are, and in terms of what's the number and keeping track of them, and is there reason because there's like a preference for in-person? Is there really an access issue? Because if there's an access issue, it's really quite important to me that we address that, and there are ways to do that without the board being present. So I think I would just be happy to know more about that.
Great. I'll just say, I don't have much more information about that. I've had a few people say that, they would like, they feel that, we should be doing town board meetings in person. But other than that, I don't have a tally or anything like that of people that have reached out. So. Okay. But it's, we're getting there. We're getting there. So.
Do you want the planning board committee report? Are we moving on to something else?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So planning board continues to meet in its smaller form. There's some discussion about like when these meetings are going to happen with the smaller number of people. Will, who's here in this meeting, is doing a really amazing job of researching some of the battery storage concerns, the law that was submitted to the board, the solar siting law that is, I guess, in our hands. And that's all.
Great. That sounds good. So Bill did let me know that he is traveling now, I think, for family stuff, but he is going to send us some notes shortly. So have those to.
So what do you anticipate the procedure will be then, Mark, once we get the notes?
My suggestion would be that we review the law as a board and then compare notes, make any adjustments that we feel are warranted, and then pass it, run it by, send it to the town attorney for final thoughts or questions, revisions. There are 2 sections that he needs to draft. There, he has the boilerplate for those 2 sections. Does that seem good with you, Tim?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the timeline is for our action. Well, given that the planning board worked so hard on this, I'd like to get this
Sure.
up.
Well, shall we put that on next week's agenda to review it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, then let's do that.
Catherine, did anybody talk with Melissa Grew about solar sighting and its effects on migratory birds?
I do not believe there was discussion with her in particular, but there was discussion with another individual.
Okay,
Mhm.
but somebody,
Yep. And there's some, excuse me, there is some language, doing some due diligence to that. It's tricky because there are some aspirational things that are, I think, really important, but not necessarily things that would be mandated by law in that regard. So that's part of the section, we can talk about the language, but yeah, there was some discussion about birds and wildlife generally.
because I saw the section on partners in flight. So. But it just, it seemed to me that there was a lot more, potential, just feedback through just things like, would they build a pond to go along with the thing so that geese might land on the pond instead of on the solar panels? And, if they're using livestock to do grounds maintenance, and then there's a ready source of water for I don't know. I mean, it just.
Yeah, it sounds like you're almost talking about like design guidelines for the
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
law.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah. Or design, yeah, guidelines, not necessarily requirements, but, something that at least they would consider
Mm-hmm.
for more than 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what you can leverage to make that happen, but it's definitely a priority.
Yeah, I mean, you plant a seed,
So
who knows where it goes.
have people looked at the state regulations, the ORA's regulations for large scale solar?
Are you asking me like in terms of what the planning board has done, or?
I'm just
Asking us?
asking if any of us have looked at those as well. It sounds like Cal's looked over ours. But I guess I would just recommend at least a cursory look at it, because the state regulations do, do have provisions for considering, protection of wildlife and things like that. So.
Mark, can you send that to us?
Yeah, I think I'll send you I thought I sent the link when I
Sorry,
sent.
I haven't looked at that stuff
Okay.
yet.
I think it's in the email I sent with the attached draft law. So yeah.
I can
think
put
it's
the
good.
link,
Okay,
just the
thanks.
ores.newyork.gov in the
Yeah,
chat.
it's just ORES. It's
Okay.
just almost like Oreo, but yeah.
Great.
And if it's something that's statewide requirement too, it's not like you're just picking on somebody at one site.
Yep.
But I guess it's just getting to me, just, how, I mean, these solar sites are just so huge.
Yep.
Mark, so when we take a look at this in relationship to the ORIs, my understanding is that that law supersedes local law for certain sizes of solar fields, is that right?
That's right.
Maybe if somehow we could just have that clarification in front of us, then we would
Okay.
know what we're looking at, why we're looking at what we're looking at.
Yeah, okay.
Because clearly the local law really is for smaller areas, from my understanding it, correct? Because
would be.
the state law supersedes us in that case.
Above
Is that right?
25 megawatts, it would
Okay,
be
yeah.
the state's law.
That reminds me, in the solar siting, when you say large solar, do you really mean 25 kilowatts?
I didn't say
25, yes, it
megawatts.
does. No, it says kilowatts.
Oh, oh, so you're,
I mean, we got 12 and a half on the roof of the town hall.
no, you're looking at the, are you looking at the unified solar permit?
I'm looking at something, or was looking at something, not right now, that the definition of terms of large scale solar was anything over 25 kilowatts. And I'm going, that is not large scale solar.
Okay, well, I think,
And then
Yeah.
medium was 25 kilowatts, and, you know, well, anyway,
let's look at it. We can discuss it
Yeah.
later when we, can read more.
Could be a typo.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Will is
Yeah,
letting
or
me,
eight.
so I know in the unified solar permit that the, residential scale, solar, the cutoff is 25 kilowatts. So I'm suspecting
and that makes
that's-
sense.
I think that's what you're
Yep.
seeing.
Okay,
But Will is reminding me that ORAS doesn't cover community solar, and she says she can provide clarification. So, Will, are you unmuted? Do you want to provide clarification on that?
Yeah, do you remember in the Sonex type description, they were pointing out how they were subdividing in order to have
Right.
5 groups? That's because community solar has a max of 5 megawatts, but they can consider each group separately. When it comes to ORs, they look at the whole thing. But if Sonex is going, or someone like them were to do community solar, they're not going to go through ORs, and they don't have any requirement to.
Okay.
So that's my clarification on that. On the sizing, we can be covered in a unified solar permit. And then the next cutoff is by area. And the reason we did that is because if you just go by the ratings, it's all over the map. An installation can take, say, 5 acres, and the same number of megawatts might take double that. There's so many factors there. So that's why we picked acreage instead of, there was also consideration given to what if someone wants to upgrade. We would support upgrading, as in picking, like replacing some of your modules with more efficient modules that could increase your output. And there's only some circumstances where you'd want someone to go through the whole permitting process over again. It's not a given.
Okay.
Any other
good.
questions I could help with?
I think at this point, Will, I think your commentary or your assistance will be more valuable next week after we've dug into this more carefully and are ready to discuss it.
And will Bill have a particular invite as well to that meeting?
To next week's meeting?
Yeah, or should
Sure.
he?
I mean, definitely. I would hope he can attend. Right. I think it's a good idea.
If you do have questions ahead of time, feel free to forward them. You'll get better answers rather than having us, relying totally on our memory or searching through things during the meeting.
That makes sense, Will. Thank you so much. That's a great idea. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Are you finished with the planning board, Catherine? Was that?
Oh yeah, I was.
Okay. Yeah. Just wanted to be sure. So any
Yeah.
other committee reports or anything? We'll let John catch up with us next week. So, okay, great. Thanks, everybody. So with that, I will I will ask if there are any comments on the March 10th and March 16th minutes that Jesse put out.
Nope.
No, all good. So with that, I will offer approval of the minutes of March 16th and March 10th and March 16th. So thank you. And so now agenda items for next week's meeting. So I think great idea. Let's have a discussion. Let's review the solar law amongst ourselves and have a discussion about that, and definitely take Will up on her suggestion to email her. And I think she was volunteering Bill too, if you have questions leading up to the meeting.
And then the food sovereignty or.
Yep. So the local ag or food sovereignty discussion. I think at this point we should just read the document that Andrew gave us and maybe do whatever research we can and
Off
and
that.
discuss it and go from there.
This is kind of it's not necessarily an agenda item. Is it okay if I make the bench by the flagpole disappear? The wood is rotten and
Okay. So I think the answer to that is yes, but Richard Brooks was
beat me to it.
examining it, and I can't remember if he said he thought I think he was right where you are, Cal. I think he said, I think it's better to just replace it, but I do want to check with him because he was working on that.
Okay.
So and you're welcome to check in with Richard if you wish, but.
Or yeah, you can put the two of us in touch and.
Okay.
I mean,
That sounds good.
I think it's bolted down. I've got the tools of destruction to
Oh, you do? Okay.
undo that. And,
Okay.
but I think it would, the other side is, do we want to replace it or do we just want to do something else? It seems kind of awkward.
You
A
think it's-
bench.
Oh, really?
I thought so. Just
I was
one
thinking of
people
replacing
in
it
the
with
United States.
a Leopold bench was a similar thing that is easy to build, but
That's fine.
whatever. I mean, it's worth discussing. I think we have maybe I don't want to discuss it tonight, but I think we should talk about some things we could do around the town hall grounds this season to spruce things up a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thanks, Cal. That's I have a couple other things for next week's agenda. I've been in contact with Judy Jones, who a couple years ago contacted us, she and Connie O'Brien, about the New York Health Act. And so apparently right now, there are enough votes in both the New York Senate and the Assembly to pass the New York Health Act, which is pretty exciting. So this would be universal coverage. So I would like to offer a resolution next week in support of the New York Health Act. And then the other thing is that the Heat Smart Tompkins, Lisa's reached out to me about doing a local clean heating and cooling campaign, which in a kind of, I don't know, cosmic sense is sort of things going full circle. So as you probably remember, the Solar Tompkins could be considered an outgrowth of an initiative that started with Energy Independent Caroline, way back in the early teens when we did Solarize Tompkins Southeast. So anyway, both she and Terry Carroll have contacted me about doing a local clean heating and cooling campaign. So Lisa said she would provide me some documentation to present to you guys. And so I'd like to put that forward for our consideration next week, to try to get people to, towards a better energy future and heat pumps. So those are the two things that I have, in addition to the ag resolution and the solar siting law. Anything else? Oh, so before we go further, I did want to have a discussion about the streetlight program.
Sorry.
And so Bobby and Jesse and I met with the streetlight engineering people last week about, as you might remember, we got this state grant, $20,000 grant, to put this, they call it Smart Cities technologies, on particular streetlights. And the ones we chose were things that would sense road conditions, surface temperature. I'm not quite sure what all, but they're useful to highway superintendents for assessing road conditions. So Bob came up with 4 sites. I gave those to them, and then I provided them some unofficial cell service information from my own cell phone, which is probably not the best. But anyway, in the discussion, it became clear that the communication with these devices does require cell service, and cell service is still extremely spotty in the town. Addressing this in some places like Speedsville would require installation of additional technology to the tune of, say, $5,000 or $6,000. And I don't know if you remember, but there's an operational cost of this technology once you get it in of $1,400 a year. So, we were thinking that at this point, the streetlights they have the technology to accept these kinds of devices in the future. But I'm really wondering if it makes sense at this point to pull back on that. Just get the streetlights in. We'll have a LED streetlight system that's well managed and can be managed remotely by a contractor. And so that's the conundrum. I did email today with the contractor, and they said, be happy to schedule another discussion about about this quote unquote smart cities technology. And they were, seemed to be, I don't know, thinking it could be a positive thing for us. But I think both Jesse and Bobby and myself all started feeling like this is just becoming more expensive, problematical, and of questionable value. So
Let somebody else figure out the wrinkles and we can adopt it in 5 years if we need to.
exactly. So
Agreed.
you agree, Tim?
Yeah.
And I see Catherine's got the head shake and the thumbs up too. She agrees as well. Okay.
$400 per street light that may not work doesn't seem like a good value.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good with that. And I spoke with Linda Woodard, who's the mayor of Cayuga Heights. They're also doing the same thing, and they're not doing any smart cities technology for their program either. They're a very different.
And I bet they don't have spotty internet.
No, they don't. Exactly. Good point, Tim. So good. Okay, thanks. Well, if we're in agreement on that, then I'm just going to let them know. The last conversation was that Jesse might have to correct my memory, but I think he would. Now they're talking May or something. So I'm just saying maybe sometime this half of the year. I don't know, but it's impending, and I would like to sort of give them a clear answer and cut the horses loose so they can get it done. So great. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you all. Thank you all. That's really helpful. So
If you can get smart rural communities, then I'm on board, but we're not a city.
yeah, the answer was there all along, right in the name, right?
Yep.
So, yep. I hear you. Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't forget to bring that up with you though. So, all right. Anything else for tonight from anybody? All right. Well, with that, I will offer a motion for adjournment.
I'll second that one.
Seconded by Cal. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And everybody take care. Great to see you tonight.
As always.
Hey, Mark.
Take care.
we'll be in touch.